announced that Israel will establish an independent arms industry capable of withstanding international constraints. In his address, Netanyahu has highlighted the resilience of Israel's economy, which he said had weathered two major crises: the COVID pandemic and the ongoing two-year war with Gaza. He stressed his belief in the free market, but acknowledged that Israel may face situations where its armed industries are blocked, thus requiring the country to develop the capacity to produce its own weapons. Let's listen in to what Israeli Prime Minister had to say.
There's a race now for weapons in the world, but it is not a market race. Because unlike everything else that we could talk about, that's controlled by governments, and their calculations can sometimes be political, not necessarily economic. And therefore, what we are going to do is to build an arms industry that will match the best arms industries in the world with one proviso. We want to produce first for ourselves on a much larger scale and with unimaginable innovation. I speak to the innovators. I find it hard to believe what they're telling me that they're going to produce. Then again, they said that to me a few years ago, and I found it hard to believe, but you saw some of it, not even all of it, in the 12-day war with Iran. So we are going to produce an independent arms industry, very powerful, very strong, that can withstand any kind of international political constraints and will provide security for the state of Israel. This is what I envision for the state. It's going to continue to grow, it's going to continue to innovate, and it's going to continue to provide for our security and our prosperity, and I think soon with expanded peace treaties in the Middle East. It'll take time. You don't see it right now, but it's coming.
Netanyahu's comments come at a time when several European countries have been increasing arms embargoes and imposing sanctions on Israel due to its ongoing military actions in Gaza. As per reports, the immediate effects is a noticeable dip in stock market shares, with political opponents and high-tech industry groups blaming Netanyahu for Israel's deteriorating standing on the global stage. Moreover, analysts have expressed concerns about the economic implications of the ongoing conflict. The announcement had reportedly come on the day of the heels of heightened expectations for a ceasefire, which had previously driven Tel Aviv's stock indexes to record high in August. Analysts claim that the continuation of military operations would only lead to higher war costs, increased spending, and a larger budget deficit, all of which could negatively affect Israel's credit rating. Joining us at this point in time is Mr. Peter Baum, foreign editor, Weekly Blitz, joining us from London. Thank you so much for your time on NewsX World. I'd like to understand from you, well, Israel is making it abundantly clear that it's self-sufficient in producing its own military equipment and weaponry. Now, what does that essentially mean in the larger context, given, what exactly is currently happening?
Well, the truth is, Israel currently is not self-sufficient in maintaining its arms industry. It requires to buy parts from the United States and Germany as their two major suppliers. And with the move and the mood towards an arms, an embargo on all goods exported from unfriendly countries into Israel, I think the Netanyahu government recognises that two things have to happen. The war has to come to an end very quickly, in which case Israel can start reasserting itself politically and from a media point of view on the world stage. But until that time, it's going to be under increasing pressure, and its economy, which has done very, very well. I mean, as you pointed out, the Israeli stock market was at an all-time high just a few weeks ago. It's probably going to decline from here on now. But until that time happens, then the Israeli economy, especially tourism, is going to suffer. I just would like to add one other thing. The economies in Europe, countries that are not at war, are suffering greatly too, and this will always have an impact on their allies. So, for example, France, I believe, was downgraded yesterday to its lowest ever credit rating. The UK economy, numbers came out today, food inflation is at over 5%. This is unsustainable. So there is a correlation between the economic relationship between countries that trade with Israel and Israel itself. But you're quite right in pointing out that Netanyahu is aware that the Israeli arms industry is under severe pressure at the moment.
Right, absolutely. Now, we're seeing many developments take place. The Israel-Gaza war, would you say it's protracting right now? What essentially do you foresee in the coming months?
Right. It's clear to every military analyst that I've spoken to that Israel is determined to achieve its objective of utterly defeating Hamas and has the support at the moment of the Trump administration, which Israel is totally reliant on because of the rest of the world, apart from a few very friendly pro-Israel countries, are clearly against what's happening in Gaza. Nevertheless, Israel is continuing with its initiative of destroying and rooting out Hamas. Potentially, this has 2 to 3 weeks of a time frame. Then we'll see how Trump will react, depending on how near the Israeli Defense Forces are to defeating Hamas. But the time is running short for Israel, as world opinion, as never before, is virtually totally hostile to what Israel is doing. And even domestically, I must say, there is growing anger and opposition to what Netanyahu is doing. So his time frame for achieving his objective is decreasing all the time.
Right, absolutely. I request you to stay on with us as we reflect on some more news that we are tracking. Well, doctors at the Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital have said that they are overwhelmed with patients as an influx of the wounded have increased due to repeated evacuations and most hospitals being out of service in the enclave. In a video handed out by the World Health Organization, injured men, women and children can be seen lying on hospital floors as medics urgently provide care. This comes as Israel has launched a ground offensive on Gaza City, with officials declaring Gaza is burning, as Palestinians there describe the most intense bombardment they have faced in 2 years of war. An Israel Defense Forces official has said that the ground troops are moving deeper into the enclave's main city and that the number of soldiers will rise in the coming days to, in fact, confront up to 3,000 Hamas members in the IDF believes are still in the city. Let's in fact listen in to what it is that the medics at the Gaza Al-Shifa hospital have to say.
طبعا مع الإخلاءات المتكررة في قطاع غزة وخروج أغلب المستشفيات من الخدمة زي مستشفى المعمداني الآن بازدياد توافد المرضى والمصابين على استقبال الشفاء. طبعا زي ما انتم شايفين الأعداد مهولة والناس على الأسرة لا يوجد أسرة كافية للمرضى وبنضطر احنا نعالج المرضى على الأرض. طبعا غرف العمليات غير كافية، متواجد فقط 3 غرف عمليات. عندنا قوائم الانتظار طويلة، عندنا المصابين في مصابين في حالة حرجة نضطر للأسف لأسلوب المفاضلة ما بينهم، ما بين إنقاذ الحياة، ما بين الأطفال، ما بين كبار السن.
الرنتيسي حاليا هي المستشفى الأطفال الرئيسي، بيستقطب أطفال مش بس من النصر، بيستقطب أطفال من الشمال ومن كل مكان، فصارت مستشفى رئيسية تمام. وكمية الحالات اللي بتيجي للمستشفى كمان كميتها يعني بيجينا أطفال بكمية كبيرة، سواء حالات عادية أو حالات معقدة. في حالات بتيجي هذه الحالات محتاجة نفضلها في المستشفى شهر وشهرين و3، محتاجة متابعة، محتاجة أدوية. أول إشي إحنا في كمية كبيرة من الأدوية، يعني مثلا عندنا مرضى الأعصاب محتاجين كمية كبيرة من الأدوية، يعني تقريبا 3/4 الأدوية اللي إحنا بنطلبها مش متوافرة عندنا، فإحنا محتاجين هاي الأدوية إن هي تتوفر بالنسبة لنا. محتاجين الأكسجين مثلا يضل متوفر 24 ساعة. فبالتالي أنا بحكي عن مستشفى رئيسي، هذا المستشفى ما بينفعش يوقف. يعني هذه المستشفى لو وقفت، لو خرجت عن الخدمة، لو صار فيها أي مشكلة، في كمية أطفال كبيرة راح تضل.
All right, Mr. Peter Baum continues to be with us on the broadcast. Sir, we're taking a look at the visuals and they essentially tell us the story of the situation on the ground. There are multiple doctors who've now said that they're completely overwhelmed with the number of patients that they're having to take care of. What exactly do you make of the situation, considering the fact that soldiers, the number of soldiers who are entering the region are now expected to increase?
Yeah, I'm very perplexed and confused about all this, and let me explain why. About a week after the horrific events of October the 7th, I was being interviewed by a number of global media outlets because the story was that hospitals in Gaza, including the Al-Shifa hospital, were unable to function. This was just a week or two after the events of October the 7th. Are we really suggesting, given the interviews that we've just heard with the medics at the Al-Shifa hospital, that in fact the Al-Shifa hospital and other hospitals in Gaza have in fact been functioning for 2 years, and we're hearing a repetition of the same stories that we heard after October the 7th? How on earth could this be? Was it a lie that the hospitals after October the 7th were still functioning and the media reports were just a false narrative? Moreover, I've been on this program many times talking about the famine in Gaza. How is it that the doctors and medics at those hospitals in Gaza aren't impacted by those famines? Surely it's not only the ordinary population, but it must be affecting the doctors and medics as well. Clearly it seems not, because they are still performing their duties according to the media interviews that we've just been witness to. I'm very perplexed about the whole thing. I have no doubt that the hospitals in Gaza and the medical doctors are working under severe conditions. But I find it very odd that 2 years after being told, the whole world being told, that there were no functioning hospitals in Gaza, that they are still functioning, I find it odd, very, very odd, when we're told by the global media that there is a famine in Gaza, that we still find doctors and medics being interviewed who don't seem to be impacted by the famine. I have no idea what's going on there, but I do know there's been a lot of false media narrative about all this. And one thing else that I would say, those doctors and medics in Gaza knowingly put all their patients at risk by allowing Hamas to store weapons, ammunitions and explosives under the hospitals in which they work. So I'm not, what should I say, convinced that the stories that we're seeing being relayed to us globally from medics in Gaza are showing an actual true narrative. I find it very odd that they've still been working when we were told that there were no functioning hospitals in Gaza.